Hi there folks. In this video we're going to have a look at some 45 ACP ammunition manufactured in China by Norinco. Now this is not new production ammunition, it was made in the mid-early 1990s and I believe it was intended for the American market originally. However, due to the ban on the importation of Chinese ammunition and the ban on the importation of most Chinese firearms into the US, this stuff basically didn't get in the door before it got slammed in their face. So this stuff sat around for quite a while, and it eventually got purchased by a Canadian importer, and it got brought into Canada in fairly large quantities at fairly reasonable prices. There were several different deals going around with this ammunition. It could be had from various suppliers, by case lots, half case lots, and so forth, and a lot of retailers sold it for reasonable prices as well compared to other brands of 45 ammunition. As you can see, the local retailer here was charging $20 a box for this, which isn't too bad of a price around here for 45 caliber ammo. In fact, you would normally pay that much around here for something like 9mm. So as I said, this was produced in the early to mid 1990s. This is the earlier style of box, black, red and white, kind of a plain style of box. I'll just show you all the different sides of it here for those of you who might be curious. And of course it says in the back, made in China by Norinco. And this is English only printing on this box, so that kind of gives you a good indication that it was not intended for import into Canada here, but to the US, because if they had imported it on purpose into Canada, it would probably have French on it as well. So that's the older style of box, and later on they got a little bit more fancy, and they had this somewhat prettier looking, higher quality box, and you can see it was the same price at the retailer as the other stuff. These boxes are a little bit beat up because they've been handled a fair bit, but so that's what the newer style of box looks like. So let's have a look inside and see what the contents look like. I might add, as far as boxes go, these are a really cheap box. They fall apart pretty easily, so if you're into reloading, these don't hold up terribly well. Inside we've got a styrofoam tray, and we've got 50 rounds of the 45 caliber ammunition. And as you can see, it's not terribly bright and shiny. It's not real dull either, but it has been sitting in storage for quite a while. And this is a 230 grain full metal jacketed style of bullet. The cartridge cases are brass, in fact, and they are non-corrosively primed with a standard large pistol primer. And let's show you what the head stamp looks like. So we get up nice and close there. You can see it says 45 auto and the year of production 1993, and there's that little triangle on there to show the maker's mark. And in the later production stuff, this is actually fired stuff that I have sized and reprimed, but I haven't yet actually loaded it yet. The later stuff in those prettier boxes has a slightly different head stamp, and it is 95. I've seen 95 and 96, but basically the head stamp is the same. Otherwise, it says 45 auto with the triangle. This is not the original primer in this. This is actually, I think, a Winchester primer, because I was in the process of reloading these. So it's kind of nice to be able to shoot decent ammunition for a fairly cheap price. This is, like I said, it's a standard gilding metal style of jacket. You can see that a magnet here does not stick to the cartridge case or the bullet, and the bullets in fact are lead core as well. And you can see that the primers have a green sealant around them to waterproof them, very much in the style of military ammunition. I suspect the tooling for to make this was present in China due to the fact that the Chinese undoubtedly ended up with lots of 45 caliber pistols and submachine guns after the war with the Chinese nationalists kind of went away. I'm sure they had a lot of guns to feed, and they probably had the production capacity from when the nationalists were in power or partially in power in China, so that's probably why they were manufacturing 45 caliber ammo, although perhaps they just started making it for commercial purposes for the American market. Anyway, we're going to pull some of this ammunition apart, and we'll have a look at what's inside it, and I'll get right back to you when I've got some of that torn down. Alright, let's have a look at the bullets. I pulled 10 of these rounds apart, and we've got 10 bullets to show you right here. First off, let's just show you the bullet bases, because that's always a good thing to check out. Gives you an idea of the quality of the bullet, and usually the better look on the bases of the bullet, the more accurate they will be. So you can have a look at those and judge for yourself if you think those are good or not. I think they're reasonably good quality bullet bases. And as you can see, these things have a lead core, and I mentioned earlier that they are not steel jacketed, so there's our magnet. It doesn't stick to the bullet. So for people shooting on ranges where there are issues with using steel jacketed bullets, you don't have to worry about that with this stuff. It has a conventional gilding metal style of jacket, and of course it is a round nose profile, very much in the GI style of bullet. Nominally, these are 230 grains. When I weighed the 10 of them, I come up with an average of 227.5 grains. Extreme spread between the lightest and heaviest bullets was 1.1 grain, the heaviest bullet being 228 grains, and the lightest being 226.9, which gives us a standard deviation of about 0.4 of a grain. A little bit less than that, but close enough. So, nothing terribly exciting about these bullets. But the only other thing we can check into is the diameter. So we've got the calipers out here. We'll have a look at the diameter. And these tend to run from, you can see the diameter there, they tend to run from 0.449 to 0.450. And quite often these bullets have some run out on them. They'll be about a thou out a round. You measure them in one spot and they're 450. You measure them in another spot, they're 449. So they are a touch smaller than you would expect a 45 ACP bullet to be. Normally those would be in the range of 451 to 452, so they are 1 or 2 thousandths smaller than you would normally expect to see a 45 ACP bullet. Anyway, we'll set those aside, and the next thing we'll have a look at is the powder charges. We've got our 10 rounds pulled apart once again here. So I'll give you an idea of how much powder's excuse me, in these is in these rounds. You can see down into the cases there. You can see the powder charges, and it does sit down below the base of the bullet. You can see the black line on those where the bullet was seated to, and the powder does not fill the cartridge up to the base of the bullet. So this is a very compact sort of powder charge. I've got one powder charge dumped out into the scale pan here, and you can see it's kind of a grayish green tan kind of a color, I guess. You'll notice a few black flecks in there. Those are not actually powder granules. Those are little chips of the sealant that was in the cartridge case. So the little black flecks have really nothing to do with the powder charge at all. But the powder appears to be a very fine-grained flake powder. It must be something similar to bullseye in burn speed, I would assume, based upon the charge weight. And by the way, the charge weights on these were between 5.6 and 5.7 for all of the rounds I pulled apart. So no significant variance in the powder charges. They were very uniform overall. So one last item, one of two last items to look at with the cartridges themselves is the cartridge case. So this is, of course, a brass jacketed case. You can see down inside the cartridge case there. It's nice and shiny inside, and you will see this black sealant. There is asphalt around the edge of the cartridge case to seal it against moisture and water and so forth. And these are reloadable. I have reloaded this type of brass, and it seems to be of fairly decent quality. It might not be quite as shiny or polished as some of the other commercial brands, but it seems to have good case life, and it seems to be fairly strong. I don't think I've seen any failures with this brass, so you know, what more can you say? It is what it is, and it seems to work reasonably well. So I'm going to go poke one of these primers out so we can have a look at the primer before it's fired. I'll get right back to you. Alright, I'm back from depriming this round, and you can see inside the primer pocket there, nothing terribly interesting to show you other than the fact that this is boxer primed, and these can be reloaded with standard large pistol primers. And the flash holes on these appear to be punched out. And from what I've seen, the flash holes are reasonably well centered in the cartridge case. So I guess that's about all we can look at there. And I'll show you the primer that I removed. There's an unfired primer. So once again, nothing terribly interesting other than the fact that these are non-corrosive priming compound. This one's a little bit distorted by being pushed out of the cartridge case. They're crimped in there. I shouldn't say crimped in there. They're sealed in there pretty good with that green sealant, and so they're a little bit difficult to get out. Obviously not a big deal when you're actually sizing the brass. So anyway, that's what those look like. I've never heard anybody have any problems with corrosion in their guns based on shooting these primers, so you can be pretty certain that they are as advertised, non-corrosive. Not something you can always say for Chinese ammo. You can't always believe what's on the packaging. Sometimes non-corrosive means not as corrosive as the other stuff they make. So anyway, so that's about all we can show you for this stuff. And I guess I'll reassemble this ammo, and we'll have to wait for another day to go take this out and shoot it. I've got a Norinco 1911, so we'll shoot some of this Norinco ammo through the Norinco 1911 and see how it performs. From what I've seen with other guys shooting this stuff, they've had good luck with it for reliability and function. Most of them say that it's pretty good ammunition, and about the only thing you hear is that it's fairly snappy stuff to shoot, so it remains to be seen just how much velocity we get. We'll take the chronograph along and we'll shoot some of this stuff for accuracy in groups. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll talk to you later.